So black holes do exist. Can we send some bad politicians over there?
One of the funniest cartoon that I've seen after the next day was there was the whole Brexit machine thrown into a black hole. Didn't happen, unfortunately, but
Brexit.
yes.
You think you should throw Brexit into the black hole? Too late. Too late. The big question is, how did Einstein know? He didn't have the advantage of you people of this century.
I think that's one of the biggest achievements of human thought, I have to say. I think the fact, what makes the theory of general relativity so precious is because all these experiments that we have done were not known to Einstein. The technology was not known to Einstein, yet the theory had this predictive power to really explain the experiments that we're dreaming up today. So even if you try to prove Einstein wrong, if it's wrong, it has to be pretty damn wrong. I mean, it's almost correct. So it's like Newton's theory was basically an approximation to Einstein's theory in certain approximation. We believe that the Einstein theory must be almost approximation to the right theory after it. Whether it's true or not at the end, we'll find out. But yeah, it's an amazing achievement.
You did start out by trying to prove him wrong. Why?
Because that's how science works. We never trust anything. We always have to be...
Not even your wife?
Oh.
She's in the audience.
No comment.
That's not a fair question.
Sorry, I'm sorry. You don't trust anything except the wife.
Jocelyn.
No, okay, so the main mission of a good astronomer is to prove everything that we have known so far wrong and to start all over again.
Yes, that's right, yes. Check everything and check it again.
So if I were a young astronomer, I would try to prove you too wrong.
Absolutely.
Yes.
How do they do it?
Probably by finding something more extreme.
Yes.
And realizing that, well, maybe Jocelyn was right, but it was a crude approximation to what's really there. That's usually the way it works.
Yes, and that's what you tried to do when you were a young astronomer.
My mission, what I was meant to be doing, was to find lots of quasars, because quasars were very new things and only a few were known. And you can't do good science if you only have a few examples. I mean, we need more gravitational wave events, really, to properly check out the theory that we really, really understand it. So quite a lot of an astronomer's life is accumulating more evidence, so that you can do really rigorous checks.
That's what you were trying to do with pulsar when you were observing signals. And in the beginning, you did not believe that it was real pulsar. Tell the story, because I'm sure you have been asked this question many, many times.
A few times,
but still, it's still a fascinating story of how, as a student, you were going through this, and then your supervisor, your teachers, your lecturers were trying to say that, come on, Joseph, just being crazy. There's nothing to it. So how did you finally convince your supervisor that it was a real pulsating star?
Well, the first thing is for him to see the signal coming in with his own eyes. But that was the first one. And when you have only one of something, you are in big trouble.
Trouble, huh?
Yeah, it's very, very hard to prove things when you have only one.
Yes.
When I found a second one, that was great. And then found a third and a fourth fairly quickly after that. And then you have a population. A four-member population. A four-member population. But at least it's much, much better than one. 2 is about 10 times better than 1. And 4 is probably about 100 times better than 1. So that's astronomer's arithmetic.
But they had always been there.
Yes.
The stars, the pulsing stars.
Yes.
Why is it that you were the first to find it? Did you have
actually-
a dream? Did you have a dream? Did someone whisper in your ear? Did you consult an astrologer?
One of the interesting spin-offs from having discovered pulsars is every so often somebody comes up to me and says, you know, I nearly discovered pulsars,
I nearly.
and tells you the story.
Yes.
And there are some amazing stories. I will only tell one, but it is 1957, 10 years before pulsars are discovered. We are in Texas at the McDonald Observatory.
Yes.
And when MacDonald gave money for the observatory, he said it must be open to the public one night every month. It's that night.
That night.
And the telescope is set on the Crab Nebula. No, we don't have the screen up. No, it's not up. Don't worry. So the remains of the explosion of a supernova. And there's a curious star in the middle of that remains, and the telescope is set on that. And people step up to the telescope and say, cool, awesome, whatever they said in 1957.
Right.
And a young woman steps up to the telescope and says, that star's flashing.
Flashing. Ah.
And the night assistant tries to explain about twinkling and scintillation. She says, no, I hold an airplane pilot's license. My job is to fly aircraft from the manufacturer to the customer. I fly at night. I know stars twinkle. That star is flashing.
Okay.
Now that star flashes 30 times a second. But some people can see that, particularly young women. They have the best acuity. But nobody believed her. Nobody followed up. If they had, they would have found pulsars 10 years previously.
So someone told you the story.
Yep,
You were not there.
correct.
And when you heard the story, what did you think?
I heard the story after the discovery of pulsars.
Oh, so that story didn't help you to get more curious.
No, it was only afterwards that people told me these.
If you hadn't
near-
heard the story before, would things have changed?
I doubt if the story would have been told, repeated, before the discovery. It was the discovery that allowed these stories to come out in the open, I think.
So how did you then get the first sign, the first signal that there might be something there?
Well, the telescope we had built, we realized afterwards was good for finding pulsars. It was not what it was designed to do, but
It was an accident then.
yeah, yes, yeah,
So you became famous by accident.
probably, yeah.
And most big discoveries happen by accident.
They do quite often, don't
Right.
Completely right, yes. Most telescopes become famous not for what they were designed for, but what they actually stumble upon by accident.
Ah, okay. Tell the stories. Then,
Well, I find this pulsing signal, and my thesis advisor says, oh, man-made.
interference, signal interference.
Stupid female grad student kind of thing.
Ah,
Yeah.
so that encouraged you to prove him wrong.
Well, I just kept at it, and about 3 weeks later found another one in a different part of the sky, also pulsing. And then it became serious.
The second one convinced you, or half convinced you, that there was something to it.
Well, we kept trying to explain away the first one. I remember doing calculations. Could it be a satellite in a curious orbit which mimics the 23-hour, 56-minute sidereal day?
Yes.
I couldn't find a stable satellite orbit, but that was the kind of thing we were worrying about. But finding a second one makes it even harder to find an ordinary explanation that will fit both of them.
Right.
So you really have to begin to suspect there's something out there.
The first one and the second one, how many days apart?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Also by accident. You found the second one by accident.
Well, I had a better idea what to notice, shall we say, because I'd found one. So I noticed that here was a signal that looked a bit like the first one had looked. Maybe I need to go and see if that one is pulsed as well. And
So
it was.
when you saw the second one, you sort of felt more confident.
Yeah.
You didn't run to your supervisor and say, hey, it's not female fantasy. You did not. Because you didn't know that there would be a third one, right?
Or a fourth one.
Or a fourth one.
Or hundreds or thousands.
Right. So the second one did not prove that you were totally right. You still had your own doubt.
No, I think by the time we've got a second one, also pulsing but at a slightly different rate, we begin to think we've got some new kind of something, different kind of something.
You said we. How many of you?
Well, there's my supervisor and myself, and we begin to rope in other people. Somebody else who had a telescope that worked at the same frequency to see if it was a curious artifact of our telescope. It wasn't. So gradually more people got involved as we did more tests, more checks.
Everything you did was manual, right? There was no computer, there was no AI to help you.
The University of Cambridge at that time had one computer. It had probably less memory than that.
Yes.
And very few people could use it. Most academics had grad students instead of computers.
Wow.
So,
And how many days after the second one did you find a third one?
there was a Christmas break, and I found the third and the fourth within 5 minutes of each other.
Wow.
Straight after the Christmas break.
Wow. Was it a good Christmas then?
Yeah, I got engaged and we had a lot of alcohol.
Okay. You got engaged on that day. When did you hear her story the first time, Richard?
I think every young student reads about the discovery of pulsars. I'm not sure whether I was still at school or at university, and I think we met for the first time, I don't know, conference in Bonn. But when I heard the story from her own words, and it's always still an inspiration of what to do. Because if a student comes along and shows you a diagram, a plot, and something looks odd,
Yes.
the first thing you do, go out and check what that point is. And the good students actually do that already themselves. That actually separates the good from the bad students. They always said, oh, I'll check this out, it's this and that, or no, I can't explain this or that. So this is how we learn. And now we are very conscious that when we stumble on something unusual, we need to check it out. We cannot just brush it away because we could miss another great discovery like this one.
So from pulsars to black hole, what's the relationship? How does pulsar lead to the black hole discovery? I mean, not discovery, but the picture.
The picture. Well, both Newton stars and black holes are both very compact objects. In fact, some of the relativistic effects in Newton stars are even more extreme than around black holes. It depends on the mass of the black hole. To give you an example, for instance, we're working on one object right now where we can study the curvature of space-time in such detail that it's because it's much bigger than the space curve time around M87. M87 is huge, and so the space-time is actually 28 order of magnitude less strong around the black hole than it is around the Newton star. So you choose your object for whatever experiment you want to do. So black holes are great to study black hole and how simple they are, because black holes are the simplest object in the universe that we know.
Yes.
Every black hole looks the same as long as the mass and the spin is the same. They have lost all the information from the progenitor. And so it is not a very big step from this Newton star, which is only, would it have been twice the mass it has, it would have been a black hole. So really the last thing that saves matter for becoming a black hole is a Newton star. So it's really just a little push, literally speaking, with a bit of mass, then it collapses to a black hole. And that's why, so I studied pulsars for most of my scientific life. And it was always a dream actually to find the pulsar around the black hole. That we haven't done yet.
Not yet.
That's the holy grail. That's what we're working on.
So,
And that's what we will try to find pulsars around the supermassive black hole in the galactic center. We'll try to find other stellar mass black holes, but that would be such a beautiful system for a physicist to
that's
study.
why Narit brings both of you here
That's right.
to work together for the Holy Grail.
The holy grail.
Is it possible? Is it possible to dream with the five pulsar near the black hole?
A pulsar near a black hole would be a fantastic object to find, yes, because you can check both the black hole physics and the pulsar physics all in one go.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, yeah, as Michael says, it's really the holy grail.
Who is doing this?
I think all of us doing pulsars trying to find the pulsar black hole system.
Can I invite our astronomer here, Thai astronomer Dr. Saran? Please come up here to join this mission. Trying to find the pulsar near the black hole. Please, Dr. Saran. Right in the middle. Please. Dr. Saran, what are the chances of the Holy Grail being found?
I have no idea at all. I think I'd like to ask some question more than answering questions,
Okay.
Especially to Michael. Well, back in 1988, I read Stephen Hawking's work, A Brief History of Time.
Yes.
I still remember something about primordial black hole. Will we be able to have that kind of technology to prove the existence of primordial black hole?
It's tempting to say no, but on the other hand,
Never say never.
When Einstein,
Never say never, all right?
when Einstein wrote, actually realized that there would be gravitational waves, he never thought that that would be ever measurable at all. Completely fantasy. So, and now, some few years later, we can actually use them as telescopes. And so, maybe. Maybe. Not today, but maybe.
For astronomers, never say never, right?
Well, for lots of people.
Not only astronomers, right? But back to the picture of black hole. The first sign of you being able to get that picture, what was the last main factor that made it possible?
We need very high resolution, and so we had and we need good image quality. And for both of that, you need to basically have a set of telescopes operating simultaneously across the Earth. We have to do this at a relatively high radio frequency because that improves the resolution even further, which means you probably have to go to a mountaintop because there you have less atmosphere. Then at this frequency, it affects radio as well. And the weather has to be perfect at all telescopes at the same time. And we were extremely lucky that for the first time we tried this experiment in 2017, the weather was perfect. We tried it again in 2018 and the weather was awful. So the picture that you've seen is actually from 2017. We have more data, but I wouldn't call them useless, but they're certainly not image quality. So we try again this year and see how the weather looks like.
Of course, you try all the time, right? So, and when the weather is good, all the other factors fit in, then you do it.
That's right.
It's not waiting for the right time, no.
In this case, actually, it's slightly more complicated because we need to use ALMA, which is this big telescope in Chile, which is sort of the big kid on the block. They actually determine when we observe. They are so oversubscribed that everyone wants to use this telescope. So they gave us a certain range of time, 2 weeks.
Yes.
And they said, you have these 2 weeks to decide, go or do not go. And then basically on day one, we basically could start the observations. We were extremely lucky. But then we were unlucky next year, the following year. So it's a complication factor. It's almost impossible because the telescopes are northern and summer hemisphere One is winter, one is summer, southern, and so it's very difficult to get a compromise. But in this case, we were extremely lucky. Like LIGO was very lucky. When they switched it on, they immediately saw the signal. So luck is another important component in any discovery, I think.
How much percentage is luck? And
Well, there's those, I don't know what the equivalent phrase in English is, but sure you have the similar one. Someone who tries hard will also gain luck towards the end. There must be an English phrase that's saying that.
You make your own luck.
you make your own luck. That's true.
But actually, with the black hole, you also need the black hole to be calm, not erupting.
That's also true, and that's the reason why you haven't seen the picture of the center of the Milky Way black hole yet, because that's 1,000 times lighter, less massive than the one in M87, and so the plasma gas moves 1,000 times faster around the central object. And my colleague Heino Falke has this nice comparison. M87 black hole is an adult, just sits there still, and we can take a picture, and it just doesn't move, long exposure, no problem. But this baby black hole in the center of the galaxy moves around all the time. It's very difficult to take a picture, and that's why we're still working on the data. But
And when
hopefully,
can we take a selfie of the black hole?
not sure.
You don't think about that at all?
Nope.
No? You should.
Yes.
You should. Did Thailand contribute to the black hole picture taking? Because there are about 200 stakeholders, right? Yes.
Hello. Well, I wish we could make some contribution in the future, of course.
Yes.
But the direct observation from Thailand is almost impossible, like Michael just mentioned about the higher frequency range. And I think the next attempt they're going to do even higher frequency than the one before, right?
That's why we had 230 gigahertz, that's wavelength of 1.3 millimeter. We're now trying the 340 gigahertz to get slightly better resolution. Yeah.
And you need that kind of perfect weather and high altitude to escape from humidity at lower in the troposphere.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's almost impossible. And the telescopes that can join this network got to have common sky with the rest of the network as well, right?
Yes, but it depends on the source. So for M87, we couldn't use the South Pole telescope because it can't see M87. But then for Suthichai A-star, we could see all of them. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Is there copyright on that picture?
No, it's explicitly not. Everyone can use it. It's almost pop culture these days, I think.
But it's only one angle. Next time, please take more angles so we can use. Because we keep repeating the picture,
I leave that to the next alternative universe to do that, yes.
right? The Martians. I was very, very afraid when you mentioned in your presentation that the sun will die one day, and that we on this planet will have to find a way of evacuating ourselves to another one. And the way you put it, we're not going to get there soon. And not this generation, not people in this room either. So how do we prepare for that day?
We get better at international collaboration. We have been so far.
Not good enough now. Who is the problem?
Would you want to? Which politician would you not want to share a spaceship with?
We all know the answer, right? He's going through a very tough impeachment process. No, but seriously, are there attempts to prepare or to even speculate about the possibility of finding another habitable planet? So this is our plan B.
We are finding a lot of planets round other stars. We are not yet in a position to have a lot of information about those planets, and in particular, we are not in a position to say they are inhabited or they are not inhabited, because you don't want to have to fight your way into the new Earth.
Right.
You want an uninhabited planet.
But then uninhabited planet means it's not livable yet.
It is not lived on yet. It might be livable, but empty.
That would be great news for people like Elon Musk and NASA. So you really believe that Mars is habitable?
No.
You don't?
I have my doubts about Mars. I think we are going much, much further.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So Mars is out for you.
I'm not interested in Mars, no.
Are you interested, Michelle?
No, it's a bit dry, I think. It's a bit
No?
dry, no.
Too dry.
Too dry. So we are not any closer to the possibility of surviving.
I don't know if you can learn anything from astronomers is I think then how to work together across borders. Astronomers have done that for generations. One example, for instance, in the Cold War, this connecting of telescopes, radio telescopes together was very common between East and West despite the Iron Curtain. So
Even during the Cold War.
even during the Cold War. So astronomers have always worked together somehow because we're not really interested in any borders here on the Earth. We're more interested in the border of our knowledge out there. So I think if the politicians can learn something from us, maybe it's not our science, but how we can work together.
But now the Cold War is over.
Well, there are other wars going on.
Too true.
It was the same case during the First World War, right?
Eclipse observation, yeah.
Yes.
And trust you.
Yes.
Well, if not Mars, where?
Oh, it has to be around some other star, much, much further away.
Much as further away.
That's why it takes several generations to get there. So that is another exercise in living together.
So why are we wasting money on trying to go to Mars?
Well, some things like expeditions like that produce new technology, new ideas, and can be of assistance for the big journey when it comes.
Is that all? But I'm sure people who spend money on going to Mars have more ambitious mission than that.
It would be far too political for me to comment on that.
It's not a political issue. It is a political issue, you think?
Well, resources are often political, aren't they?
Michelle, what is your take on Mars? And NASA is on Mars, Elon Musk on Mars, Richard Branson on Mars. They are all working on Mars, but not the other planet that
Well, I mean,
Jocelyn was referring to.
the other planets are either made of gas or too hot and sticky like Venus. So Mars, if you want to build a colony, this is your best guess in the solar system right now, unless you go to moon of Jupiter, for instance. But I think neither Elon Musk or anyone else really wants to go to Mars themselves because it's a one-way ticket. The radiation exposure on the way to Mars is probably meaning that you'll never come back. So you have to be courageous. I think it's, as Jocelyn said, I think it's certainly a big step to leave our planet and not just go to the moon. That would achieve something. Whether it's sustainable with a colony, I think that time will tell. But in preparation and learning for this generation ship to go even further, at some point we have to get off this planet.
At some point.
And so making small steps, like we all learn to walk, at some point we have to walk and even to fly.
At some point, and not in this generation, your children's generation, your grandchildren's generation.
Again, if I look at how, I mean, my students don't even know record player these days, so who knows what comes in 10 or 15 years.
Dr. Saran, do you believe in Mars?
I think there's a good chance for people like Elon Musk to get to Mars with maybe 10, 15. And I think differently because maybe they see some opportunity that might result from colonizing Mars, like doing something that illegal on Earth, but out there there's no law. Maybe very similar when the first group of people try to get to America and then set up some new businesses, some new ideas. Maybe they see something that we don't. But to be able to convert or to change Mars so that it is habitable in its own way might be possible at all. Even though we have seen or we have read about creating a thicker atmosphere by maybe bombing one of the moons and peppered with some black carbon, things like that.
Yes.
That sounds crazy. Might be totally impossible. Yeah, but colonizing Mars, I think it's possible, and those people may see some opportunity.
So it's commercial mission rather
Like
than
growing cannabis. That's out of the question sometimes. Yeah.
cannabis.
Yeah.
That also is possible. But when Stephen Hawking talk about it's time to think about another planet, what did he have in mind? Not cannabis.
I don't know. He had a unique mind, so whatever he was thinking was probably right.
What do you think he had in mind?
Well, he might have been talking about how we are polluting this planet, forcing climate change and things like that. So maybe he was thinking ahead in that sense.
You don't try to guess what he was really thinking about.
It's hard to know, really hard to know.
The topic tonight is into the unknown. What else do we not know?
Oh,
We don't know 95% of the universe because we believe, although this lately has become some doubts maybe, we believe that the universe is pushed apart by some force or something that we call dark energy. This makes most up of the energy in the universe, and we have no clue what it is. Whether it's a misunderstanding of the laws of gravity, whether it's indeed another force, that's one of the big mysteries today. Then, apart from dark energy, we also have dark matter. So when astronomers don't know something, they just call it dark something.
yeah.
Dark matter, we at least know acts via gravity.
Yeah.
That's how we can detect it. But again, we don't know anything about what it is, whether it's a particle or, again, maybe a huge number of small black holes. We have, again, not any good idea. And they make up 95% of the universe.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of things still to be discovered. And so everyone else who wants to study physics and astronomy, please go ahead.
Yes.
So compared with 50 years ago, our understanding of the universe or our awareness of what we don't understand has grown enormously. So we reasonably understand 25%, maybe, and the rest we now know we don't understand. So there's plenty of stuff still to be sorted out, plenty of jobs for academics and research students.
How does new technology, AI, machine learning help? Maybe speed things up, maybe expanding the horizon of knowledge. Maybe what we thought would take 10 years might be shortened to 5 months, 6 months, like any or the other industries. Is that possible?
There are some big telescopes, like one that's building in South America, I've got it in the right place, which is specifically looking for transient events, things that flare up and die or come and go. And it's going to produce probably several million alerts per night. Per night. Don't go and be a graduate student there. It's going to be too much hard work. they are going to have the computers, machine learning, screen the data, say, yep, that's a supernova, that goes down that pipeline, that's a gamma ray burst, that goes down that line, that's a pulsar. Don't know what that one is, don't know what that one is, don't know what that one is. That might be rubbish, might not. And that's good to the extent that we can program the machine that's going to do the machine learning and tell it what to look out for. But the snag is, how do you tell a machine to look out for something you don't know exists?
Well, they call it machine learning, meaning that it learns by itself. Well, that's what they say. The technology people say that. Human beings can feed information. And if there is enough big data, they say, then the machine can learn by itself and sooner or later becoming more intelligent than human beings.
I think the machine will learn, but I strongly suspect it will consign to the rubbish heap a lot of stuff that actually is not rubbish. That would be my hunch.
Mitchell, AI, machine learning will change the face of astronomy?
Well, it does already. I mean, there are different ways. So when we discover pulsars today, we usually use machine learning, but we look for the signal structure that we know from pulsars exists. So we try to tell the computer, this unknown signal, this unclassified signal, don't throw it away, put it in a basket for humans to look later.
Yes.
So that's how we try to solve it.
So machines have this bad habit of throwing everything into the rubbish can.
That they haven't been taught to look for, yes.
And this, what they call unsupervised learning, maybe that...
Unsupervised learning is dangerous, right?
Well, we'll see. But I mean, there are some clever examples where this may actually help, but time will tell. I think we are at the verge of really a change in how we look at our data, but Jocelyn just described the danger that this brings with it. But on the other hand, technology will extremely change the way we look at the sky. We can do things that were not possible before. What we do with radio astronomy today was not possible 20 years ago, absolutely not. And so every technology advance will be seized by the astronomers for their own purpose, or they contribute to the technology advance because we develop things that is not available, so we have to do it ourselves. So that's also happened.
So machine learning AI probably can help you to find more pulsars soon, sooner than you thought.
Yes,
right?
And probably increase the variety of pulsars. But whether it can discover things that it hasn't been told about is the debatable point.
Well, if it's clever enough, and if it's curious enough, then it could go searching for things that human beings may not think about at all.
True, that may happen, but it's also very much more efficient and maybe reliable what we do as what we call citizen science. Sometimes we just give our data to the public, and with the combined help of everyone here and outside, we can look at amounts of data together that we alone couldn't look at. And that's also very successful. So we have discovered pulsars this way also.
Have you used citizen science yourself?
I haven't personally, but it started in Oxford, so I know quite a bit about it. And there is a lovely story of, I think probably from the very early days of citizen science, using the public to classify galaxies. Is that galaxy spherical? Is that galaxy elliptical? Which way is the spherical galaxy rotating? And it was very successful. And then one of the people doing the job says, "What's that funny green pea image that we sometimes see in the, around the edge of the frame?" And because the astronomers were so focused on the galaxy, they weren't noticing these green dots. And they turn out to be galaxies that are rich in oxygen, because oxygen has a green spectral line, like you see in aurora. So green peas, green pea galaxies.
Green peas galaxies.
So they were discovered by citizen science.
Dr. Saran.
May I ask one question? Do you believe that one day machine will develop its own consciousness?
Oh, I don't know. Consciousness is a very funny concept for a physicist or astronomer, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know.
But some people believe that sooner or later AI will become more intelligent than human beings, and human beings will have to decide whether to allow AI to control you or to coexist with AI. Would you want to coexist with AI?
I don't know. I think we need to find intelligence life first here on our planet. I think I like. There's one. I mean, Einstein has had so many great quotes, and I think this one is actually true. He said once that there are two things that are infinite:
Yes.
the universe and human stupidity. And he wasn't sure about the universe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure you have questions. I have about 10 more minutes. So please, if you have a question,